The Korthak arena stretched before Marcus Chen like a metallic coliseum, its crystalline walls pulsing with alien hieroglyphs that hurt to look at directly. 70,000 beings from across the galaxy filled the tiered seating, their chittering, roaring, and harmonic humming creating a cacophony that would have driven lesser species mad. At the center of it all stood a single human, barefoot on the scorching sand, wearing nothing but simple cloth pants. No weapons, no armor, no technology. High above in the Grand Observer's box, Supreme Warlord Vex Thul clicked his mandibles in amusement. The insectoid ruler of the Korthak Empire had conquered 47 star systems, enslaved dozens of species, and built his reputation on the ritual combat that preceded each world's subjugation. Today, he would add humanity's home system to his collection. The human delegation requested single combat, Vex Thul announced, his voice amplified across the arena by bioacoustic enhancers. Their champion stands before us. Observe how their species faces extinction, with foolish bravado. The crowd erupted in alien laughter. In the lower tiers, the recently conquered Zalarians wept through their gills. The proud Vorlak warriors, enslaved only cycles ago, watched with hollow expressions. They had all sent their greatest champions, armed with their finest weapons and technologies. All had failed. Marcus raised his head toward the box, his dark eyes finding Vex Thul's compound gaze. He didn't speak, didn't gesture. He simply stood there, centered and calm, as if he were in a meditation garden rather than facing certain death. "Release the Harvester," Vex Thul commanded. The arena floor split with grinding metal screams. From the depths rose something that made several alien species in the audience flee in primal terror. The Harvester was 30 feet of biomechanical nightmare, part machine, part nightmare creature bred in the deepest laboratories of Korthak science. Its 6 arms ended in vibroblades that could slice through starship hulls. Its hide was reinforced with quantum lattice armor. Neural implants gave it tactical awareness beyond most organic minds. It had never lost, never even been wounded. Marcus watched it emerge and took a deep breath. The meditation techniques his grandfather had taught him in the mountains of Tibet seemed absurdly inadequate now. But his grandfather had been a refugee from the Chinese occupation, had survived. By understanding that sometimes the greatest strength came from perfect stillness, the Harvester roared, a sound like tearing metal and dying stars. It charged. Marcus didn't move until the creature was 3 steps away. Then he flowed. Not ran. Not dodged. Flowed. The first blade arm swept where his head had been a microsecond before. The second stabbed at empty air. Marcus was already moving, not away from the creature but around it, his hand trailing along its flank. To the crowd, it looked like he was caressing it. The Harvester stumbled. In the observer's box, Vex Thul leaned forward. Impossible. The creature's balance systems are... The Harvester crashed to the arena floor. Not damaged. Not wounded. Simply still. Marcus stood over it, his hand resting lightly on what might have been its neck. He pressed gently, precisely, and something inside the biomechanical fusion simply stopped working. The crowd fell silent. "The human has disabled the Harvester," announced the arena's AI system, confusion evident even in its synthetic voice. "Combat parameters unclear." Vex Thul's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. "Release the Warpack." The arena floor opened again. This time 12 creatures emerged. Each was smaller than the Harvester but faster, more intelligent. Pack hunters bred from the apex predators of a dozen worlds, enhanced with combat stimulants and tactical neural links. They circled Marcus like wolves, their silver eyes calculating angles and attack vectors. The human remained in the center, turning slowly, watching them with the same calm expression. The pack leader gave a subsonic signal. All 12 attacked simultaneously from different vectors. What happened next would be studied by xenobiologists for generations. Marcus moved as if he were dancing to music only he could hear. Each creature that reached for him found only air, while his fingers found pressure points that existed in biology textbooks but had never been successfully targeted in combat. One by one, the pack hunters simply stopped. Not dead, not injured, but as still as statues. The silence in the arena was absolute. In the conquered species sections, something unprecedented began to happen. A Zalarian stood up. Then a Vorlak. Then others. Not cheering. That would have been executed as rebellion. They simply stood, bearing witness to something they had never seen before. A human fighting with weapons that couldn't be taken away because they were knowledge itself. Vexthul was no longer clicking his mandibles in amusement. His entire carapace had darkened to the black of Korthak rage. Activate the Destroyer protocol. Even his own advisors recoiled. The Destroyer was their ultimate weapon, a creature that existed partially outside normal spacetime, capable of phasing through matter immune to conventional attack. It had been used only once before, to end a rebellion that threatened the Empire itself. The air above the arena tore open like fabric. Something stepped through that hurt to perceive directly. Angles that shouldn't exist, shadows that fell upward, a presence that made reality itself seem negotiable. Marcus looked up at it and smiled. The smile was worse than any war cry. It was the expression of someone who had found exactly what he was looking for. The Destroyer reached down with appendages that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously. Marcus reached up with 2 hands that existed in only 3 dimensions but moved with perfect understanding of where those other dimensions intersected with his reality. He touched something vital. The Destroyer screamed, a sound that shattered crystal viewing screens across the arena and sent several species into catatonic shock. Then it simply wasn't there anymore. Not dead, not banished. Absent, as if it had never existed. Marcus stood alone in the arena, unmarked and unruffled. "I believe," he said quietly, his voice somehow carrying to every being in the arena. "The terms were single combat to determine the fate of my species." Vexthul stared down at the human. For the first time in his conquest of the galaxy, he understood what the ancient Korthak legends meant when they spoke of the deep fear. The terror that came not from facing something stronger, but from facing something whose strength existed in dimensions you couldn't even comprehend. What are you?" Vexthul whispered. Marcus looked up at the Supreme Warlord and his smile widened slightly. "I'm a martial arts instructor from San Francisco. I teach Tai Chi to senior citizens on Tuesday mornings." The Grand Observer's box erupted in flames as Vexthul's rage overloaded his bioelectric systems, but the damage was spreading. Throughout the arena, Korthak technology began failing as their operators realized something that shook the foundation of their empire. They had built their entire civilization on the assumption that superior technology and overwhelming force were the ultimate expressions of power, but this human had just demonstrated something that made their assumptions meaningless. He had weaponized understanding itself. As the arena systems failed and the great structure began to collapse, Marcus walked calmly toward the exit. Behind him, the greatest military power in the galaxy burned. Not because he had destroyed it, but because he had revealed that their strength was built on a fundamental misunderstanding of what strength actually was. The last transmission from the Korthak homeworld, received 3 days later by human monitoring stations, consisted of a single message repeated across all frequencies. The humans are not what they appear to be. Do not engage. Do not approach. Remember only this: they make weapons from wisdom itself. After that, there was only silence. And in the years that followed, when other species asked humanity's secret, they would always receive the same answer. We learned long ago that the greatest strength comes not from what you can destroy, but from understanding what should not be destroyed at all. The galaxy remembered, and it chose peace.